Hello everybody, Pie Man here, and welcome to my first creepypasta. Warning of the Star Beings. As I sat up in my bed, drowsily blinking the blur out of my contact lenses I had idiotically decided to sleep with, I realized there was an odd color haze everywhere in the room. Down the hallway, and as I stumbled around, I saw it was all throughout the house. To this day, I can't decide what color it was. I made it to the dining room to find it completely clean, abnormal from its usual state of messiness and filth. I turned around to look at the room I just came through. It too was clean. I muttered to myself that I must have slept for a week and went to the refrigerator. My dad decided it was a grand time to frighten me, and growled while tapping into my shoulders at the same time. I jumped a bit and we teased each other. The morning was like any other, simplistic. At some point towards the afternoon, I decided to go outside. I live in Oregon woods. The landscape is always serene, except for that day. At about 11 a.m., the sky was blood red. A fog had decided to settle on our 4.5 acres, as well as the surrounding area. It seems like I was the only person to notice any of this, as a white Nissan Altima came roaring down the driveway. It lazily parked, and out popped my boyfriend, as well as a few of our friends from college. I was even preparing for company, having lazily sat about in my pajama shorts and tank top, playing video games with my father. I shrugged off and let them make their way inside. Just as we were about to settle into my room, my dad decided it would be a great idea to go on a hike. I changed into warmer clothing and we set off. Crossing the road behind the house and heading up the hill, we followed the creek we found and quietly chatted about various school activities and mutual friends. With about 20 minutes of the following each other in line, I bumped into Samantha, who was standing still. Very still. I looked about the woods for a moment, realizing that for nearly 1 p.m. it was absurdly dark. Samantha, what's wrong? I shook her arm, beginning to try to get in front of her. She didn't move, and I saw she was staring at the ground. I followed her gaze to an electrical blue light hidden under some foliage. I looked up to her face to see a horror that slowly and shakily met my gaze. Sam was the smartest person in my group of friends. It was obvious that the blue light connected to nothing was impossible. I took her by the hand and led her forward, fighting off the choking red-lit fog. Dad, there's something wrong. Has anyone seen blue lights around? The response was silence. I saw nobody. I heard nothing but the wind playing with plants. Something was very wrong. I trudged onward, half dragging a shocked Sam. I saw a few more lights and then found the group. They were all surrounding a pitch black hole in the ground that was bordered by blue lights. No one spoke. I noticed my mother had joined the group at some point in time. The silence was broken when my father broke in. What the hell? Where did he go? What do we do? Oh shit. He jumped in? Oh. The silence broke as my father jumped in. What the hell? Where did he go? What do we do? The group began to yell at each other. Panic swept through the group's atmosphere like a wildfire, escalating higher and higher before I jumped in after him without saying a word. I was still holding on to Samantha's hand. We fell through darkness. It was cold and wet, maybe like it had been a large hose, and yet felt so frightening. I screamed finally, but no sound was made. We landed on the soft earth in the woods again. No, these weren't the woods we just left. Soon others had landed on us, and the dog pile sorted themselves out as we looked about. The plants were red, very wet and very red, like blood. Perhaps. I shook off the fear that was building in my chest and silently trudged forward. My boyfriend took my empty hands as the nervous chatter echoed through our surroundings. We came across a clearing after about an hour of walking in the same direction. I looked up and gasped. 2 suns to the left of the moon, visible off to the right. We weren't on Earth anymore. A native ran to us, hurried, speaking an odd language that was a mess of tongues and clicks, unknown words. They seemed genuinely concerned and began to motion the group to follow. With no obvious safe choice left to us, we ran after them to a city built to the sides of the mountain. Every person wore a hat, and the roofs were all made of metal. The guide led us into a large building where they found my father talking to an old man who sat in a large chair. They drew pictures to communicate. My father was glad to see us, but continued trying to get whatever point he had across to the elder. Nightfall slowly came, and the various natives had surrounded the building, listening in sudden disappearance. Metal hats were thrown onto our heads, and were drawn to the center of the room. The skull room had windows facing the outside of the mountain. I watched in confusion as inhabitants raced to and fro, some screaming, some crying. I soon found out why. Being made of stars themselves, came from the sky, began invading the town. They carried staffs upborne in large electric blue jewels. Their bodies were a mixture of human and reptile, but it was their eyes that frightened me the most. While the bodies appeared to be night sky, their eyes were black voids. They had no mouths, no ears, and no nose, just nothingness for eyes and reptilian claws for hands. They silently tapped a few natives and left once every metal hat wearing person was in a metal roofed house. I fainted. We were stuck in this planet for months. In the day we searched how to get back home. At night we'd hide in metal roofed houses from the creatures that would destroy anyone not wearing a hat with the blue jewel. They would prove their staff at victim, and a blue light would shred them to pieces. The beginning would stand in for a moment, and a mist would rise into their bodies from the bloody remains. This was apparently how it always had been for the city. We wanted out. One day we found it. Another black hole in the ground surrounded by blanks. Without even thinking, we jumped in. We reached the return to our Earth, the same part of the woods we left in. It was a race down the hill to my house. Once I got inside, I cried. I cried for a very long time before looking for my cell phone to see what day it was. It was the same day we left. About 6 hours later, I screamed this loudly and it echoed through the house. Various patches of what responded as everyone checked for themselves. I wasn't wrong. I decided I wanted a nap, so I fell asleep on my bed with other people joined in on the nap idea. When we woke, it was black sky. I felt hair on my neck stand. I realized I didn't have a metal hat. I laughed. I didn't need it. I was home. The house was quiet, save for the main TV in the living room, running the BBCA channel. My mom looked at me with her newly sunken eyes. She lost a lot of weight in the span of time we were spent there. I had no idea how to explain to any of our changed appearance to people. I decided to go outside again. The sky was clear and sparkling. Normally, I ran into the middle of the driveway and spun around, feeling free again. But I stopped dead in my tracks by a large blue light rising from the woods. It was one of the ships being rowed in. Images of exploding people, blood and bloody parts splashing on my face. I looked of fear in my father's face. A cry for help all flashed through my mind. Things that hadn't happened yet. I screamed in terror and ran inside, fashioning a hat out of tinfoil and making more, throwing them on everyone's heads, wheeling into the sleeping people's heads and waking them in the process. A few friends ran outside to look. They were spotted. Both of them ran in different directions. I watched from a window as Nate took out his phone to take a picture, both being forgotten about Alex and just went after Nate. Both ran into different directions. I watched from my window as Nate took his phone to take a picture. Both beings forgot about Alex and just went after Nate. Throw your phones in the kitchen and steer, I yelled as I acted upon our own degree. Hide! I ran into my room and began to set a blockade. My boyfriend and mother joined me, followed by my grandfather and Samantha. Dad, come on! He was messing with something. I had the door blockade ready and I was just waiting for him. I watched the crack of the door as a being burst through the front door and stopped in front of my father. I looked at him, and he looked at it, and then he was gone. Pieces of him flying everywhere. I shut the door and cried quietly, pushing my bed in front of him. What? Where's your father? My mom began to cry. I didn't have an answer. We sat in silence as the being stomped through the house. I could hear dying screams of neighbors and eventually Nate and Alex too. Suddenly, as I leaned against the doorframe to listen, I heard a faint repetitive beeping. It grew louder and then heard footsteps of a being. It spoke. I don't know how to voice this. I know you're in there. I can hear you breathing. You can't fool me. I will wait. You deserved. Oh crap. Well, you know what? Screw it. I know you're in there. I can hear you breathing. You can't fool me. I will wait. You deserve to die, you filthy lowlife. You're a waste of energy. Look how spoiled you've been, and you do nothing. You're useless. Pause. I could hear more footsteps. I continued to cry and looked at the people in my room for help. They were crying too, hiding away from the door. Away from me. Yes, I think I shall kill you. Says goodbye. It is your time. And then there was a thud against the door. I scrambled off the bed and tried to hide in my small room, but failed. The door exploded and it took the bed with it. I stared in horror as the being walked right up to me, pointed its staff at me. I felt heat rising through every atom in my body. And then I was looking down. I watched the rest of my family die. I watched my boyfriend die. And poor, shy Sam died too. The beings left, killing all of my small town and moving out. I watched them work on the small places first. I think they're going to wait it out to move on and kill cities. Hide, please hide. I possess a body to write this as a warning. Metal is your ally. Cell phones are your enemy. Run. and please survive. As I'm looking at it, that's written by Anonymous. Well, that's a pretty good story. And nonetheless, sorry about my messing up parts, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye-bye.